The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to the Ask the Experts webinar for January the 30th. Technically, it is January the 31st. I had some issues with my internet last night, so hopefully that won't continue. And I'm just going to do this one and then post it so that you can see it on the First Canada YouTube channel. So we're going to talk about all the details that you might start to consider about things that are going to happen shortly, but that you can prepare for right now. So we're about halfway through the build, and we're going to talk about a couple of things. The first thing we're going to talk about is the Cost Accounting Worksheet. Now, essentially, it's a spreadsheet that's been provided by First, and in that spreadsheet, which you must display to the robot inspector at your first event and your second event, will list parts you put on your robot that are not from the kit of parts based on some of the rules that you would see in the season manual in section 8.4. So a couple of them are briefly recapped here, but you will need to read through that carefully to make sure that it is something that you're following. So essentially, if you buy parts off the shelf, those are called COTS, COTS, and they're less than $5 US, then they don't also need to put on the spreadsheet. So no kit of parts, no parts less than $5 US. However, the parts that you do put on, no one part, and there's rules about that. Rule 12 talks about that extensively and gives you some examples. No one part can exceed $500 US. And the total extra items on the robot cannot be more than $4,000 US. I'm sure that some teams may have gotten close to that, but I know the teams that I have been involved with in the past were never close to that. As I say, there are a lot of rules in that section that you should read through. You want to make sure that you do that and read through that carefully. Now, that sheet sort of looks like this one. And it's an electronic spreadsheet. This one is in a Google Sheets format. And you can see it's divided by subsystems, and you would put down, oh, this is the drivetrain, or this is the pickup device, or whatever, the pneumatics, whatever it is that that subsystem is. You describe the part, what the material is made of as best you can, where you got it, Home Depot, AndyMark, Studica, Vex, McMaster-Carr, Princess Auto, wherever, how many of them you've put on your robot. Remember, these are parts that are on your robot. Whatever the measurement on it is, and there's different items, could be different measurements depending on what you're putting on it. The cost per unit, and then there's a calculation that gets done based on those parts, and you can see the calculation pops up here into the formula bar. And down here it gets totaled up. You can insert more rows in a part subsystem if you need them. You may, however, depending on how your spreadsheet deals with that, you may, however, have an issue here and that you might have to change the formula a little bit to reflect that, but I'm sure that's doable. So on paper or electronically, you have to have this to show the robot inspector at your event when your robot is getting inspected. You may wish to have a student or a mentor tracking this now, because I'm sure you're starting to buy parts and put parts on, make your different devices. Track it now and then add it in, but you want to make sure you don't forget that. So going back here, and there is a place where you can find a copy, but you'll be able to find a copy online as well at firstinspires.org. One of the other things you also need is an inspection checklist. And you don't have to have it personally, but you would want your team to have that. This is what the inspection checklist looks like from 2017. It'll be a little bit different, and the robot inspector will use this one to make sure that you have done everything correctly and safely. So it would be a good idea to print it out. It hasn't come out yet, but it will come out shortly so that you can go through it. It goes through all the key parts of it, and it explains what you have to do. There's colors of wires and so forth. You can see right here, wires must be color coded. I know we had that issue one year. The different things, the different systems, if you use pneumatics, they're going to check it for safety and so forth and compliance with all the rules. And you can see in the angle brackets all over this sheet are a variety of rule numbers. So again, this is the 2017 one. There will be one coming out shortly. And this is exactly what the robot inspector is going to have when they go through your robot. So it's going to give you an idea of what you need to do. Again, there's a link for where it is, where you can get a copy of that one in any case, but there will be one that come out, so you want to have someone searching it. Again, very important, something that you need to deal with and probably start looking at right now, just to make sure that you're in compliance with all of those items. And again, some of them will be exactly the same from 2017 as they will be for 2018. There will be some small changes, as there are every year. Now, one of the things that is maybe not super well understood by rookies is that when you get to February 20th on stop build day, or some of us call it bag and tag day, you can actually keep something out to work on. So you can work on fabricated items that you're working on building, but they cannot exceed 30 pounds. So you can put your rolling chassis in and parts like that into your bag on stop build day and keep a part out that you need to continue to work on. 30 pounds. So that's something that you might want to make sure that you're aware of right now as you're going through your build. Now, there are more details on that, more specific details, and again, this is in section 8.4 on budgets, constraints, and fabrication schedule. Now, that is an important thing to make sure. Again, you'll notice that many of these webinars, especially this one, talk about reading the rules and making sure that the rules are clear and that everybody in the team clearly understands. There's rules specifically for building, there's rules specifically for driving, there's all kinds of things that you need to know, what you can and cannot do in the pits, who can be in the pits, what they can be wearing, and so on and so forth. Now, all of the items, the 30 pounds of fabricated items and your robot chassis or whatever it is that you're putting in the bag, have a maximum weight of 120 pounds. And again, that's all in that section. Just as a point of interest, bumpers, which we've talked about in the previous webinar, and which can be up to 20 pounds in size and weight, are not part of the 120 pound weight limit, nor is the battery that goes in the robot. So again, read the rules, and if you have any questions, please ask. Now, in addition to the information we have there's a couple of things I wanted to mention this week. One of them is that First Canada is partnering with the National Alliance for Partnerships and Equity and First Headquarters to provide a new badge, this Equity, Diversity, Inclusivity badge. And again, it's not necessarily, it's a pilot that we're doing. The badge is just a small thank you to demonstrate to people, adults, mentors, and volunteers who have taken the great lessons, the training modules that have been created by the Equity and Diversity Group at First Headquarters, headed by Shelley Henderson. They're amazing training modules. They will definitely provide you with food for thought in terms of how your team and you or other individuals in your team deal with equity, diversity, inclusivity. Some of them deal with how to make your team more diverse, how to make it more inclusive, and to make sure that in your group, equity is a key goal and something that you're working on, because we're all working on that. It certainly is a strength. Diversity is always a strength. And the training modules talk to that a little bit. So in Canada, we want you, we would love for everybody who's a mentor, who's an event volunteer, who's a volunteer that gets involved with teams and events to go through this. It is not mandatory. It was mandatory for certain employees like the first senior mentors, and I have not seen a comment or heard a comment from any of the first senior mentors who didn't feel that it was an excellent program. So we want to reward people for taking it, and by providing them with a badge that they can wear with their mentor badge that they already have. And we want to thank you if you do it, that we think it'll be beneficial to you, but it's also beneficial to us as a group to know that people are understanding and modeling these great behaviors, which most of the behaviors I'm sure most of you model already. I will say that when I went through it, there were things that stood out to me that I had never thought of, and certainly has changed some of the ways I think about teams and how teams work together and so forth. So it's a great thing to do. You can go to this link to get started. This link will take you to a place on firstinspires.org. I'm going to just show a quick what it looks like when you get there. So it does have some information. You can see it's through this relatively new site for us called Schoology, that First is now a part of, where a lot of our training and resources for different programs are kept. And there's an access code down there. You click on the button, it would take you to Schoology, and away you go. Now, just to let you know, you can start and stop those modules at any point. And at the end of the module, when you've completed it, I would recommend that you let the video that's playing finish right to the end. As soon as it ends, up will pop a certificate of completion that you can put your name on and save, and we'll be looking at that or asking about that when you notify us that you're interested in collecting your badge at an event. Now, I realize for mentors that this is something that maybe you won't have time for right now. It's not a just 2018 January, February, March thing. We're going to continue this all year round, so you're welcome to do it at any point, and we'll have more information about that as we move along. But please, EDI, equity, diversity, inclusivity, has always been a big part of First in Canada, and we want to make it an even bigger part and support all kinds of students and young people along the way. And lastly, there are, I'm sure, people out there thinking, I would like to get out and practice my robot. Hopefully you can do that. I know it's a challenge for many teams, but there are several practice fields around. So there are full practice fields at Studica in Mississauga, at John Polani in North York, and in Hamilton at the Robodrome. There are contact names and emails there to contact people that might be able to schedule a time for you if you're available. And there are other fields that are around that may be full size, may not be. It depends on what they're able to do. And there will be a just over half field, three-quarter field at Victoria Park Collegiate in North York, a field that's under construction at Team 1360's, one of their buildings in Oakville. And Symbotics and Michael DeRamio are working with a couple of other teams in the Niagara region to create a practice field. And those are the contact information to get a hold of them. Even if your robot is not complete, sometimes it might be an idea to bring it anyways. There's people that would be supportive in helping you. But again, before you just show up, please make sure to contact one of the people that are listed at that site. Make sure that there is space for you and there is time for you and that it's going to be open when you get there. So don't just assume that because you know where it is that there's going to be somebody there. It's a very important thing to consider. I added in these slides from the last one that Mr. Hobbins did, so please make sure to be aware of those. There are lots of great tips out there from hopefully from these webinars, but also from First Update Now, which is another webinar style thing. There's the Chief Delphi where you can ask questions, get answered. There's a bunch of supports that are put out by teams like Team 118. They're every bot's amazing, so please, you're welcome to take a look at that, in addition to the Robot in 3 Days events as well. So there's all sorts of videos about those. Again, the reason why we talk about the practice fields is that if you can get your robot built, even if it's not as great as you think you want it to be, the fact that you can drive and practice some of these things will make your team even better. So the drivers have a tremendous impact on the game. Certainly knowing all the strategy and having tried out some of it before you actually get into an official game is a great idea. So keep in mind some of these, you should have a strong knowledge and understanding of the game. You should be thinking about strategies. You will want to talk to other teams. Don't keep this secret. The more you talk to other teams, the more you can share strategies and ideas, the better off your team will be. And again, there's all kinds of links to different parts, the bronze safety quiz, the rules quiz, the amazing online help desk that's staffed by the team from St. Catharines Symbotics, Team 1114. All of these things are there to help you, as we hope that these webinars are helping you as well. Please feel free to contact me at pkeenan@firstinspires.org, or any of the people that you've seen linked on the practice field page. We're here to help. We'll be happy to answer your questions, and hopefully in a very timely fashion. Certainly the Symbotics group are amazing at responding in a quick fashion. So please, if you do have any questions, don't be shy. Please contact us. And as I say, this and every other Ask the Experts webinar will be posted at the First Robotics Canada YouTube channel onto the playlists for Ask the Experts 2018. And hopefully we'll see you soon at an event or at a practice field. And please stay tuned on Facebook and Twitter for updates as to when the next webinar is and what it's about. Thanks again, and good night.